Shivashadi Gaurabhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaurabhakta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna, Prasannatma, Balaram Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams.
Prabhuji, you will be sharing the sloka, or you want me to share the sloka, Prabhuji, for you?
Prabhu, if it is possible to share that shloka, there is only one shloka, 62.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhuji, I will share, Prabhu, no problem.
That will be good.
Are we good to start, Prabhuji?
Yeah, whenever you say.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna devotees, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are fortunate to have the association of His Grace Prasannatma Balaram Prabhu. On the auspicious this week, tomorrow we have Balaram Jayanti. So on that occasion, Prabhuji will be giving a special class on glories of Lord Balaram. So today's topic will be deliverance of Vivida Gorilla and the anarthas represented by Vivida. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna so much, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yeah. So is my audio, video okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Clear, Prabhu.
Able to hear? Okay. Thank you. So Hare Krishna to all the devotees, Dandavat Pranams. So we'll just get started on this today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna.
I'm opening the shloka, Prabhuji. Just
Yeah, no problem. So, but actually, just take this opportunity to thank His Grace Shankarshan Nityam Prabhu, Shankarshan Priya Prabhu, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak on a great personality, so Balaram. So on the eve of this Balaram Jayanti, which we are going to celebrate tomorrow, so at our temple. So, as a prelude to that, we're actually discussing some pastimes of Lord Balaram. And in the pastimes, then, of course, the pastimes are always very nectarian. And then we also try to understand a little bit of the position of Lord Balaram, and then the inner relevance of the pastimes, and so on and so forth. Like, for example, now yesterday we saw the pastime of Pralambasura, and the message for us through the pastime was also discussed and presented. So today also we will try to do something similar. So today's pastime is deliverance of Vivida Gorilla. And yes, the shloka is there. So this we are reading from the 10th canto, the 67th chapter. So verse 2. Shri Shukavacha Narakasya Sakha Kaschid Dividho Namavanaraha Sugriva Sachiva Sota Bhrata Maindhasya Viryavan. So if you look at the word-to-word meaning, the synonyms, Shri Sukha Vacha, that is Sukadev Goswami said, Narakasya, of the demon Naraka.
काय को screen share होता नहीं
Sakha, friend. Kaschid, a certain. Dividaha means Divida. Nama, by name. Vanaraha, an ape. Sugriva, King Sugriva. Sachiva, whose advisor. Saha, he. Ata, also. Bhrata, the brother. Maindasya, of Mainda. Viryavan, powerful. So the translation. So if you can just move it up a little bit. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, can you just bring it down a little bit? I'm not able to see. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, there was an ape named Divida who was a friend of Naraka. We have to bring it down a little bit more. There's something blocking. Yes. Sri Sukadev Goswami said there was an ape named Divida who was a friend of Narakasuras. This powerful Divida, the brother of Mainda, has been instructed by King Sugriva. So the purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhu, if you can just go up a little bit. Sri Jiva Goswami points out some interesting facts about the ape Divida. Although Divida was a little lower, I think if you can keep it in the center, it is better. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So actually, I have logged in through my mobile, so I'm not able to do much now. So that's why. Thank you. So although Divida was an associate of Lord Ramachandra's, he later became corrupted by bad association with the demon Naraka. As stated here, Narakasya Sakha. This bad association was the reaction for an offense Divida had committed when, being proud of his strength, he disrespected Lord Ramachandra's brother Lakshmana and others. Those who worship Lord Ramachandra sometimes chant hymns addressed to Mainda and Divida, who are attendant deities of the Lord. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Mainda and Divida mentioned in this verse are empowered expansions of these deities who are residents of Lord. A little up. Lord Ramachandra's Vaikuntha domain. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura concurs with Srila Jiva Goswami's view that Divida was ruined by bad association, which was a punishment for having disrespected Sriman Lakshmana. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states, however, that the Mainda and Divida mentioned here are actually the eternally liberated devotees addressed as attendant devotees during the worship of Lord Ramachandra. The Lord arranged compares the fall of Divida and Mainda to that of Jaya and Vijaya. So thank you so much. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a particular pastime that comes in the 10th canto, and this pastime has got Lord Balaram. It is a pastime enacted by Lord Balaram. So we'll try to see that. And then it is also, there is a mention of this in the Krishna book. So that is in chapter 67. So these are two places where we will try to discuss what is there. And I also was listening to a wonderful lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So we'll try to take some of the conclusions from that, and then how Maharaj brought out so many aspects with respect to the inner relevance of these pastimes. So that's how we will try to dwell on this wonderful pastime. So this particular shloka that we saw, so what is happening? Actually, Sukadeva Goswami is actually introducing Dvivida. So who is Dvivida? So like we just saw, he is a Vanara. And then he was actually connected to King Sugriva. He was one of the ministers in the kingdom of Sugriva. So, and then, there are some very interesting points that Jiva Goswami is also making with respect to this personality of Dvivida. So now we can understand that Dvivida actually is coming in both pastimes. I mean, in the Ram Avatar also we see Dvivida, and then also in Krishna Avatar. So there are certain personalities who have appeared in both. So there's some amount of uniqueness there. So we know Lord Hanuman, he was there in both the places, that is in Ram Avatar as the pastimes there, as well as in Krishna Katha also. So Hanuman ji was there. Likewise, there was also this another personality, that is Jambavan. So he was also there. So in this way, now Dvivida also is present in both the pastimes. So maybe there are other people, I don't know. So if you can think of somebody, then you can type in the chat box. So that will be an information for all of us. So now Dvivida is actually an associate of Lord Ram, but then what happens is he actually makes a mistake there. He offends Lakshmana. So now when he's offending Lakshmana, and then he disrespects him. But actually, Maharaj was saying there is no instance of any incident that has happened in Ramayana or in the Ram Katha where there is some altercation or some incident that has happened which is mentioned whereby Dvivida and Lakshmana are having some sort of a misunderstanding or whatever. So there is no such mention. So Maharaj concludes that it was in his heart. So he had some amount of envy or like, I mean, why is it that Lakshmana is so this thing? Because I am more powerful than him. So actually, Dvivida was a very powerful personality, a gorilla. He was very strong. In fact, we will talk about his strength a little while from now. But then, so probably he had this particular misgiving for all the adoration or whatever that Lakshmana, or importance that Lakshmana is being given. But then he didn't voice it out, but then it was there. So Maharaj was saying that it was in the seed form, this particular envy, it was in his heart. But then what happens is, after the war and everything is there is no altercation that happened at that point. Then he ends up associating with a demon. So which is the demon he is associating with? He is associating with Narakasura. So Narakasura or Baumasura. So we know he was a demon who went around capturing kingdoms, and along with that he was also capturing the young princes or those beautiful people in the kingdom. And then he had actually locked them all up. So what was the count of the number of people that he had locked up? 16,100 of them. So in this way, then we know how the Supreme Lord as Vishnu then goes and then he destroys and then kills Narakasura, and then thereby then he liberates them. So that's another pastime. So we'll not, I am just mentioning, we'll not go into details of that. But then what happens is, after Narakasura is killed, because Dvivida was a very close associate of Narakasura, he becomes very angry. And then Maharaj was saying that because Dvivida was associating with Narakasura, the envy that was there in the seed form, which was there within his heart, it kind of blossomed or germinated. No, it became a plant or a tree or whatever. So it grew. So the bad association actually was a very fertile ground for this envy to grow. So that's what we are seeing. And then this made him very, very envious, openly envious of Lord, of Krishna, of Vishnu, you know. So in fact, this is the personality that we are discussing today. So now you have a devotee Dvivida, who was a devotee in Ram Avatar, and then he actually fights alongside Hanuman, Jambavan, Lakshmana, Ram, and all in the war with Ravana, and then he was a wonderful soldier. So he was also, like Hanuman, was instrumental in bringing about the victory for Lord Ram. So that was a kind of seva that he was doing then. But then, because of bad association with Narakasura, there's a complete transformation that has happened. This transformation is a good transformation. So from a devotee, then he becomes a demon or an asura. And this asuric bhav that is coming out very strongly is the bhav of envy. It's the bhav of self-pride. So why does this happen? Actually, when we look at what all he did, I mean, if you look at the chapter, 67 chapter in the Krishna book, so what does he do? The gorilla was a great friend of Bhamasura or Narkasura, like I said. And then he gets, of course, Krishna has killed him. And then what happens is, when the gorilla heard the story of his friend being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country, throughout in and around Dwaraka. So in order to avenge the death of Bhamasura. So his first business was to go about setting fire in towns and villages, and then in industrial places, and then in mining places, everywhere, wherever there were people, he went around setting fire there. And then he also did not leave the well-maintained residential quarters of the mercantile community, that is the Vaishyas. And then he did not spare the busy dairy farming areas where the cow protection was going on. So he was actually transgressing everything that was set up there. Sometimes, he would even uproot a big mountain and then he would just tear it to pieces, just like that, because he's an animal, he's an ape with a lot of strength. And then he knows that he is strong. So there's a very dangerous combination. Like say, elephant also is very strong, but then the elephant actually doesn't know its strength. You know the story where as a baby elephant, there is this, the trainer actually ties the leg to a pole or something, a very small pole or a stick that is there, or a small plant, and then it tries to free itself, but then it cannot. So, but then as it is growing bigger, its strength is growing up, but then it realizes that, oh, anyway, by kicking, I'll not be able to free myself. So it continues to remain there without making any effort. So even though it is strong, but then it doesn't know how strong it is. So which is good. And that is what is the some essence of training and or taming an elephant. But then what happened here, this gorilla knew its strength. And then in fact, here it is said that it had the strength of 10,000 elephants. And these are, Maharaj was saying, these are elephants of that era, not even the modern day elephants. So they're even more stronger and bigger than now. And then, in fact, strength is generally measured in terms of, there's an interesting point that Maharaj made, where he said that strength is measured in terms of the strength of an elephant. So that's not very surprising, because today, modern day, Maharaj was saying that, we have these automobiles, and then they are also measured in terms of horsepower. So what is the power that one horse can exert to pull something? So the power of an automobile is measured in those terms, like 100, 120 horsepower or 150 or whatever. So like that, in those days, then the strength of an individual was measured in terms of the strength of an elephant. So like now, Bhima also, so we know he had the strength of 1,000 elephants or something like that, right? So that's like 1,000 EP, elephant power he had. And now like that, this Dividha gorilla had 10,000 EP, so that's how strong he was. And so he was just, and very whimsical because he is an animal. So he is not bound by anything. And then he went around, and then this envy in the heart is there and it is completely blossomed. So he went around destroying places, and he would uproot a big mountain, tear it to pieces. And then in this way, he was actually creating a lot of disturbance all over the country, especially in this province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this province called as Katwar. And because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvida specifically made it his target of disturbance, because he decided that it was Krishna who was responsible for the death of Narakasura, who was a great friend of mine. And then, so this is how he was doing. In fact, it is said here that he was creating so much of disturbance that sometimes he will get into the sea. I mean, not just a water body like a pond or anything would do for him. That would not suffice for him. He would get into the sea, and then he would create so much of disturbance in that sea by splashing his arms or whatever. So it used to flood the shore. It used to flood the neighboring villages and cities and all that. So that was the type of power that he had. And then of course, he did not spare the hermitages. So he used to go there, and then, there's these great saintly persons who are there. And then, he would create a lot of disturbance there, smashing their beautiful garden and orchards and all that. And then not only did he create disturbance in that way, but then sometimes he would pass urine and stool on the sacred places like the sacrificial arena and all that. So he was like creating a ruckus. He was like a very repulsive way he used to do. He would pollute the whole atmosphere. And then he would also, it didn't stop there. He used to kidnap both men and women. He used to take them away. And then he used to kind of put them in a cave and then close that entrance with a big stone. So it's difficult for them to move a stone, right? So they were all put into a lot of difficulties like this. And then in this way, he was regularly defying the laws and the orderliness of that particular country. And then it is also mentioned that he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them. So he was a demon to the core in a very strong ape body. And in this way, he was he thought that he was avenging the death of his friend, that is Narakasura. So in fact, this particular pastime, when we read, there is so many things in this, so many atrocious things that he's doing. There is one particular, when I was reading this, and I was thinking, it was so, what do you say, very disturbing, or it was very disgusting to read those things like passing of stool and urine, and then, polluting the places in that way. And then, Maharaj actually, in fact, he was narrating the story. Actually, in fact, this particular story, we know that in the 1970s, 72 or something like that, during that time when San Francisco built, they had just acquired a new place or something like that. They were not in a storefront like before. And then they had this small patch of garden at the back. And then they made a nice place for Prabhupada. They made that small lawn garden and a sitting place. And also where Prabhupada used to go and then sit and then relax. So Maharaj was saying that and then he was in this habit of reading, or he was making his devotees read aloud the Krishna Katha or the Krishna book. So they used to take every day one pastime. So in one particular day, when Sutakirti Prabhu was so his turn to read, and then he was asking, so which chapter should I read? And then Prabhupada said, no, just take anything, because the entire Krishna book is nectarian. You can pick up anything and then it is there. Like Prabhupada always used to give that example of gulab jamun, it is sweet, whether it is inside, outside, or whatever, whichever way, wherever you bite it, it is the same sweetness that you have. So it doesn't really matter. You can just read. So the Kirti Prabhu just opened the book and then opened a particular page, and this pastime came up. And then he started actually reading this pastime. And then when this pastime was being read, and then when he was reading how Dvida was tearing down the trees and all that, Prabhupada was actually smiling. And then when they were discussing about how he was destroying the gardens, and then how the sages' hermitages were all being destroyed and all, Prabhupada was actually smiling, and then looking at that, the other disciples, they were feeling, I mean, they were also a little perplexed. So they were also, like, Prabhupada is smiling, then we can also smile. So they were also enjoying this particular katha in that way. And he started laughing actually when this aspect of contaminating the sacrificial arena by passing urine, stool, and all that, he was laughing. And then in this way, they were actually responding to this particular katha in a very jovial way. But then after that, the next day, when Prabhupada actually meets all of them the next day, he said, even though I was laughing a lot, Dvida is no laughing matter. It is a serious pastime with a strong message for all of us. So that's how Prabhupada then brought about the seriousness of this particular pastime, trying to say that, okay, it's an animal and then it is doing a lot of nonsense, and then sometimes you might find it funny, if not revolting, then at least funny. And then when Maharaj was reciting this, there was so much of humor actually. I've never seen Maharaj with so much of humor taking any class, So of course there is humor, but then not in such a great manner. He was actually laughing himself with some of those, funny references that he was making, and it was a wonderful lecture that I listened to. I would suggest that all of you should listen to that. So anyway, so in this way, then Prabhupada, in a very sober way, then concluded that there is a lot of seriousness because the pastime is very serious and there is a strong message for all of us. And that's how Prabhupada brought about this. And then now what he used to do, like I said, he used to go to the ocean and then he used to create all these disturbances. And when all this was going on, at one particular time, he heard a very sweet musical sound coming from Raivataka mountain. And so he enters that mountainous region. He says, what is the sweet sound that is coming? Some music that is coming. So he gets attracted to that. And then he goes there. And then when he goes there, then what does he see? He sees Lord Balaram in the midst of many beautiful young girls. And then he's enjoying their company while singing and dancing. So actually, Dvida becomes captivated by the beauty of Lord Balarama's body, whose every feature was very beautiful, and it was decorated as and then he was decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Then he was wearing a blue dress. So in this way, he was very attractive to look, of course. So he was there, and then similarly, even all those young girls who were there, they were dressed and garlanded with flowers, and then they exhibited so much of beauty. And also on top of that, Lord Balaram looked like he was fully intoxicated. He was actually drinking Varuni beverage he was drinking. And then his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. And Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. So that's how the ape is seeing Balaram. So now this naturally disturbed Dvida. So what does he do? Dvida immediately started climbing trees, and then it started making noises, and then it started jumping from tree to tree. So it's trying to create, get some attention of these people who are there. So on one side, you have this wonderful setting, and then this ape enters, and then it is trying to break the branches of the tree, and then it is jumping from one tree to another, jumping from here to there. That's the type of, and then it is making a lot of noise. Sometimes it would jerk the branches, and then it is creating a particular kind of sound. It is saying killa 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 killa, and then it is trying to grab some attention. Then it used to go in front of those girls there, the women, the young women, and then the gorilla used to show its teeth. It used to raise its eyebrows. And that's supposed to be a very offensive behavior. I don't know how, but then that's what is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And then likewise, it's trying to distract the whole serene setting and then trying to create a ruckus there. So in this way, he was trying to get a lot of attention onto himself. And yes, he didn't get the attention of everybody there. So the girls who were there, they started giggling and they were laughing because it's a monkey and it is monkeying around. They found it very funny. It used to, in fact, the gorilla did not stop there. Each time, each antic it did, it became bolder and bolder. So and then finally it went up to the women, and then it used to show its back, and those sort of things. So he was disrespecting the women in every way, and all this was happening in the presence of Balaram. And then Balaram actually then finally he takes notice and then he says, enough is enough. So he is actually taking pleasure in this exhibition of the extraordinary strength that the gorilla is having. But then he realized that this particular gorilla is crossing the limit. So he takes a stone and then he throws it at Dvida. But Dvida is a very sharp, a very agile monkey or a gorilla. No? So it ducks, it avoids being stuck by the stone, and then it comes to attack Balaram. And then, in this way, it takes away that Varuni pot that is kept there. And then, in this way, it is trying to, and then he begins to actually tear off the clothes of Balaram and all that. It's trying to do all of that. And then he's also trying to hit or it wants to fight with Balaram. It wants to kill him. So it continues because now all those things, the envy that was there in the heart of this gorilla from the previous yuga, from the yuga of Ramayana, that is there, and then it is already fructified as a plant. I mean, it was in the seed form earlier when it was interacting with Lakshman, and now the same Lakshman who's here as Balaram. And then the envy is already it has germinated. So this particular disturbance, it becomes very angry, and then it is approaching Balaram to kill him. Then Balaram knows, he understood what is happening. So he immediately takes out his club, that is Sunanda, and then he is preparing to attack, to counter-attack. So now the moment the gorilla saw that he has pulled out his club, then immediately the gorilla uproots a tree. And then, so the gorilla has got a tree, and then Balaram has got this mace or this club. And then the moment the gorilla is trying to hit Balaram on the head, he is defending himself with the club, and then he shatters the trees to pieces with one small swing of the club. So now that angers the gorilla even more. So again, it picks up another tree which is nearby, and then again he does the same thing. Again, Balaram is shattering those trees to pieces, and this goes on. And then so very soon they realize, the gorilla realizes that there are no trees to uproot and then to hit at Balaram. So in the forest stretch that they were occupying, it has become treeless because everything has got uprooted. And now what does it do? It immediately attacks with boulders, with stones. So it begins to lift boulders and then throw at Balaram like stones. And Balaram, of course, is defending that and then pulverizing those stones with his club. So this match is going on again for some time now. So from one side, there is a throw from the gorilla, and then Balaram is hitting it, and then he's pulverizing those. So that's going on. And then what happens is, with a great force, actually Balaram hits the gorilla on the head, and then it begins to bleed. And then it looks like there's this red blood that is going down this black gorilla's body. But then the gorilla is not affected by that. And then it is not disturbed. It again is trying to take another tree from somewhere far away, and then it wants to strike Balaram. So like this, there is a lot of fight, a full-fledged fight that is going on. But then when the gorilla had run out of all the trees and the stones, then with its bare hands, it comes down to attack Balaram. So the moment Balaram sees this, that the gorilla is bare-handed, keeping the ethics of the fight and trying to be fair, he drops his mace, and then he also gets ready with his fist to counter this particular gorilla. And then he hits the gorilla with his fist, with his closed fist. He gives it a small hit on the shoulder. The collarbone breaks for the gorilla, and then it actually falls down. That particular blow actually proved fatal for Dvida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. So when the gorilla fell, all the hills and forest appeared to totter. That means it was shaking. So it was such a powerful personality, Dvida. And then that was actually the end of Dvida. So in this way, Balaram actually kills Dvida gorilla, who was intoxicated by envy. Now, this particular, yes, thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that wonderful picture of Balaram hitting that was probably the final blow, and then it falls down after all the trees are being uprooted and the stones are being thrown here and there. So you can see that in the pic. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. So much explanation I read, but then that one pic is enough to suggest how it is. So thanks for that. And now after this, when it has fallen down, then it was, of course, the Siddhas, the great sages, the saintly persons, and then all the people from the upper planetary system, they shower flowers on Lord Balaram, and then they vibrated sounds glorifying his supremacy. All of them chanted all the glories to Lord Balaram, glories to Lord Balaram. So let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. So that's how they were saying. And by killing this great demon, Dvida, you, Balaram, have initiated an auspicious era for the world. All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from outer space. After killing the great demon Dvida and being worshipped by showers of flowers, the glorious sounds of victory, Balaram then returns to his capital city, Dwaraka. So in this way, the Krishna book, the episode ends there. So this was the pastime that we just discussed. And we also saw how, even though Prabhupada said in a very grave way that it is no laughing matter, it's a very serious pastime, because our acharyas and then Maharaj was saying how the danger of false pride or arrogance, we will have to be mindful of. We should not allow that to grow. Even though Dvida in his earlier birth was a devotee of the Lord, he had the association of Lord Ram and association of wonderful devotees like Hanuman and Sugriva and all that. But because he cultivated the association of Narakasura, everything changed for him. And that's the message that is coming across. So what does he think then after that? After he started to think that he is the controller, he is the enjoyer, he is the lord of everything that he is surveying. So these sound familiar, right? We were also in many instances like that. We want to be controllers, we want to be enjoyers, and then we think we are the lord of everything that we survey in this material world. So now we will get with this kind of an of a view. If we proceed, then we get disconnected from the reality. Maharaj actually is talking about the examples of Ravana. So he was so arrogant and rude that he was blind to all those good counsel that he was getting. He was getting good counsel from Vibhishana. There were other people also who were trying to tell, don't do this, Sita Mata, you can't do that, Lord Ram's wife, somebody else's wife. Even if you look at it from a dharmic view, how can you do that? And even if you keep dharma aside, but then look at it as he is a Lord's wife, so it's like she's the universal mother for all of us, so you cannot do that. But then he was like blind, he never listened. So likewise, there are demons who get drunk, who get intoxicated by this power, and that makes them blind or oblivious to such good advice. So there's this example of Banasura, which Maharaj was talking about, which is relevant here. So he said, if Banasura had agreed for the marriage proposal between Aniruddha and Usha, that is his daughter, then things would have been different. He would have not been killed by Krishna at all. So he would have entered the chapters of Bhagavatam in a different perspective, as a different individual. And individually would have been glorified. That's what Maharaj was trying to say. Same is the case with Hiranyakashipu, who was blinded by this false ego and pride. And then of course, Narakasura also. So now Maharaj was saying, why is it that we have this particular aspect or this thing about being arrogant, being rude and all that? Where is it coming from? So this is because of the opulence that a particular person has. In this Dvida case, it was strength. So he had so much of strength. Nobody was stronger than him. And so he became arrogant. And then he became, what do you say? He was like, there's so much of arrogance, and then rudeness was there in dealing with people. He didn't care for the laws of the country or the rules, the basic ethics, nothing. So most of the time we feel, even though we are all very small Dvidas in our own ways, because we may not have the strength, but then sometimes, if we get a certain position or something, then we think we are the masters, and then we try to act in that way or behave in that way. So there is some amount of arrogance that creeps in. There's some amount of rudeness in the way we talk to people, and then we become very imprudent. And then, these are some of the aspects which we will have to be mindful of. And where is it coming from? The root cause for all of this is a little bit of opulence that we might have. And like we know, the 6 opulences Maharaj is taking reference to. So any of these 6 opulences, if it is a little bit more in quantity, then there is this chance for this pride to creep in. And that is what we need to be mindful of. So now the 6 opulences, like we know, it is wealth, then there is strength, then knowledge, then intelligence, and then of course honor, fame, and then renunciation. So any of this, then we want to show off. And then we want to display that in a way that we want to attract people. So when we want to attract people towards us, then they will praise us, they will satisfy our ego. So it is that puja, pratishtha, these things are all clubbed into one, and then it begins to manifest in us. So when we are in the premise of I-centric, that is, everything is centered around me, then there is a very great chance. That's a very fertile place for such things to grow. The envy, the rudeness, the arrogance, and all of that we saw. So this will all germinate very quickly, like weeds that grow. Very quickly it will grow, and then very soon, if we ignore them, then what will happen is it will become a huge bush, become bigger and bigger, and it becomes very difficult to cut and clear. And then you might have to need some extra help, like bringing an earth mower to cut it or take it away and to weed it out. Otherwise, if it was nipped in the bud, when it is a small weed, just pull it out with your hand, it will come out. So like this, we have to be mindful, and we have to keep a watch that we are not getting into that. And the primary reason is because we are I-centric. So like, I am the Lord of all I survey. And then what happens is Krishna actually becomes a competitor when we develop this kind of an attitude. And instead of keeping Krishna in the center, we have kept ourselves in the center. And this has to happen. Now, how do we keep Krishna in the center? Okay, now I understand that we love to keep Krishna in the center. We have heard in so many lectures. Then how do I keep Krishna in the center? The first thing that we have to do is we have to dislodge that person who is there in the center, which is ourselves. So how do we dislodge ourselves from that particular center where we have kept ourselves in the center? That is, we'll have to become humble. Humility has to be there. Trinadapi sunichena sotarurapi sahishnuna. We have to become tolerant when we are insulted. So this way, we have to cultivate this aspect that it is not I-centric each time. Thereby, once we make that place empty by developing these qualities of humility and all that, then only we will be able to keep Krishna in the center. Otherwise, you try to keep Krishna. Sometimes, the I is already in the center, and then we try to take Krishna, and then this I is pushing out Krishna. I mean, in the mind, I'm saying. So it tries to edge out. And then sometimes we keep both there, and then we get into a lot of problems, confusions. You know what happens. So 2 people cannot sit there, only one. Either it is I or it is Krishna. So we know it is Krishna. Our intelligence says that. But then somehow we are not able to do that. So why we are not able to do that? Because of many reasons, but primarily because we cannot keep Krishna in the center, because we have not removed, we have not made that space empty. We are sitting. And the only way we can get out of that position is with humility. And that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 6th Ashtakam very clearly brings out this aspect in all of those shlokas, especially in the shloka of Trinadapi sunichena tarurapi sahishnuna. And then amana dena manina. So like this, not caring for honor and so on and so forth. So we have wonderful examples like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. They all went with a dry blade of glass in their teeth, and then that's the mood in which to approach with humility. Thereby, then our actual position we will be able to understand. And once we understand and accept our position, this is actually jnana. And then with this jnana, with the right knowledge, we will become vinaya, we'll become humble, vidya, vinaya sampanne. So when there is any jnana that comes in which is right, then we'll automatically become vinaya. That is the true sambandha jnana. Any other knowledge is not sambandha jnana, or it is not knowledge at all. We like to reject that. So now what are the things, even for a devotee, Maharaj was saying, like, is this feeling that I am a better devotee. So, I mean, we leave everything and come to this devotional aspect, but then there also there is this thing that creeps in. So Maya is not going to keep quiet. The I keeps coming and trying to occupy that place where we have cleared it. We thought we cleared it, and then we put Krishna, but then it again comes back. It is like that monkey. It tries to again jump around, hop, and then try to edge, and then come and sit, take a small place at the corner, try to push, look here and there, see what is happening. It is trying to entice us, tease us like that. So this is happening. And then we begin to think, oh, I'm a better devotee. In what way? I'm a better chanter, or maybe I'm a better singer, or I know more shlokas than the other person. By heart I know, or I know more, I know this, I know better than this. So I know more than you is a feeling. And that's a very dangerous signal. If we begin to get those kind of vibes within us, then we will have to immediately beat it down. We will have to beat it down with the right knowledge. How is that right knowledge? How do we beat it down? We should understand that whatever little I know is because of the mercy of Prabhupada, mercy of the Guru Parampara, mercy of the Lord. So without that, all this is not possible, because we know that the Lord is Adokshaja. I cannot understand the Lord with the senses that I have, but whatever little understanding that I have is because of the mercy. And that's the mood in which we will have to approach any subject matter, including jnana or any other opulence that might be there in terms of any other quality that we might have in terms of increased memory or wealth or any of those things. So this way we'll have to keep on beating ourselves down. Amanena manadina kirtaniya sadaharihi. So when we are doing kirtan, we'll have to do Trinada Pisunichena, and then mana or no mana, that's okay. You should just continue with the kirtan. So do devotional service, don't expect any of these results. So that's one of the things. And this can happen when we put Krishna in the center, and then we can be happy, and then we can see that when Krishna is happy, then we will definitely become happy. And then another way of doing this is by helping the whole world experience this happiness. So because when we put Krishna in the center, then there is a lot of happiness that we have experienced. We all know that. And then like pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, it's like susukam kartum avyayam. So we can actually experience it by our own selves. We don't need somebody to tell us. So we become happy. And that happiness is different from the material happiness. So now, once we experience that a little bit, maybe a little bit of that, then we'll have to take that to other people. And then how do we take that to other people? Only when we have compassion, then we will be able to do that. And that is the correct duty that we are doing in this material world. Otherwise, it is just me, myself. So when the moment we remove the I-centric, then put Krishna, then all other things will fall in place. So from humility and then tolerance, and then compassion will come. Otherwise, it will be arrogance, envy, and then comparison. So we'll keep on comparing with other people. So this comparison trait has to go, even if it is with respect to devotional service. So, okay, comparison and then trying to do better. It is like a small weed that is growing, which might create a lot of problems later on. Of course, we can compare and say, and then praise the other person, but then not get into it. So it's a very dangerous ground that we are trending when we compare. But then instead of comparison, we'll have to develop some compassion. So by compassion, then humility and tolerance, if we are on this side, then it is that much more better. So in this way, in this pastime, we are seeing how even if one is a devotee, or even if one is in devotion, then we can lose it. We can become rude. We can become arrogant. So we need to have a check on ourselves. And this check on ourselves is by building a network of devotees who are like, peers, because same age, that kind of a thing, who will be able to give us a feedback when the moment they see we are slipping somewhere, the moment there is some tinge of arrogance coming out, or anger coming in where it was not needed. So somebody must be there to check us, so that, oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Prabhu, for pointing that out. I'll be more mindful. So because we may not realize it. So the best bet is that we have this small network. It may not be a group, a big group. It could be just 2-3 individuals also. So, and then each one helps the other one in such scenarios. So we have a very mature understanding that, Prabhu, if there is anything, please do let me know. Not as a lip service, but then you really mean it, and then take the feedback. Thereby, they will be our proper anchors for the actions that we do and the thoughts that come, and the tone and the mood that comes out sometimes because of this particular aspect of envy that is there in all of us. So in this way, we will have to develop and cultivate it, and then not become carried away by some opulence that is there, and then understand that it is coming from the Lord. So these are some of the things that I just wanted to put across. And then Yeah, I think yeah, on this note, in fact, Maharaj was saying like this particular envy is like a cancer. I mean, just another point to reiterate how important it is for us to understand this particular aspect of envy, which will be responsible for all these rude behaviors, arrogance. Now, where is that coming from? This is rudeness, arrogance is because of the fact that I consider myself better than the other person. You already concluded. And then it shows in our body language because I'm better than him. So this we'll have to be mindful of. And how is that? He's comparing it to cancer. You know, it comes as one cell at a time. You know how cancer spreads one cell at a time. And then it spreads, and then, you know, you have this lump or whatever, and then it becomes fatal if it is left unattended. But then Maharaj goes one step further and then he says, the physical cancer or the bodily cancer is better for a devotee, because for a devotee, if it is cancer, then he's going to die and then he's going to go to Goloka. So there is no problem there because he's always chanting. So this cancer is welcome in one sense. But the other cancer, the spiritual cancer, where you pose as a devotee, but then you have all these anarthas or this ego that is there, it begins to eat away. It is the reason for our downfall. So what is the spiritual cancer? Spiritual cancer is doing devotional activities, but then trying to compare and then trying to say, oh, I am better than him and so on and so forth. So you're still eye-centric, even though you're doing devotional service or you're trying to do devotional service. So this cancer is worse because it will definitely take us downhill to it's the pathway to hell. And that is wonderfully seen here by the pastime of Dvida. And Jiva Goswami, Jiva Goswami actually says there are two opinions about Dvida and Mindya. It's like they said, like they are actually associates of Lord Ramachandra, eternal associates of Lord Ramachandra. In fact, there's a mention of them in the puja or in the deity worships and all that. In some process, they are also being worshipped as along with Ramchandra. But Jiva Goswami says that they are actually what the Dvida and the Mindya we saw here are actually the expansions of the original Dvida and Mindya who are with Lord Ramchandra. And then they are come here to do a particular pastime. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a slightly different thing, even though he agrees that it was actually orchestrated by the Lord to show us how even a devotee can be affected. So to show that this particular pastime is there. But then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that they are actually not expansions, but they are themselves there, like how, and then he compares them to Jaya Vijaya, like how Jaya Vijaya came and as enemies of the Lord, and in some similar such way, they also have come here and then to enact these pastimes. Either way, they agreed for the degradation of themselves for the sake of this pastime, and then the pastime has happened, which is remaining as a lesson for all of us. And then, of course, their service and other things are continuing. So in this way, we will have to look at this particular pastime. So on this note, I'll stop here. It's almost time. If there are any questions or comments on whatever we heard today, please go ahead. Or anybody wants to add anything that you have heard, so please go ahead. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. Thank you very much for wonderfully narrating the pastime, especially bringing out the various aspects from Krishna book and also from Maharaj's, His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj's class. It was very nice, Prabhuji. It's a classic example of how we should be very cautious, not even nurturing the thoughts of enviness in our mind, because as you said in Ramayana, there is no reference of him actually offending Lord Lakshmana, but because he had that thought in the mind, and that was a seed, and later it manifested as a gross offense. So thank you, Prabhuji. It was very nice class.
In fact, I wanted to just add, as long, Maharaj was saying, as long as it is in the seed form, you'll still get away with it, like how Dvida got away. But then you allowed it to germinate, and that is where the problem started. So for us, we will all have those small things that will come up, which are all in the seed form, but we will have to nip it in the bud itself, like they say, even in English. So that is important. And that action how quickly we are taking, how religiously, how consciously we are taking is very important. So what we do with that, because those weeds do grow, but then don't allow it to go to that higher stage, whereby then we'll have to go through that suffering then. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. And I should say thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that lecture. Actually, that really helped. Otherwise, it was difficult. I was wondering what to say, but then you helped me with that lecture. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one thing what I recollected, Prabhu, we have also another reference, from Ramayana. Sugriva, when he was welcoming both Ram and Lakshman to the mountain, where he was, subtly disrespecting Lakshmana by not offering him a seat.
Didn't offer the seat. Yes.
Yeah, and then he gets the punishment as a blow from Wali.
Yes.
Fatal, it was not a fatal blow, but he got enough blows that so that that disrespect goes away from the heart.
Yeah.
So I think it looks like if we disrespect in this case also, Vivida mentally disrespected Lakshmana, and he got enough blows from Lord Balaram so that he got purified. So
and
I
also,
think
the unique position of Balaram actually we did not discuss, because I know if somebody, the speakers tomorrow will take care of that. But then, Balaram actually is the Adi Guru. So he is correcting the people in a way that, you can't approach Krishna directly, but you'll have to go through the Guru. And that, there are, he's showing in that, in many ways, he has shown that. So that's another uniqueness about Balaram. So which I thought I'll just mention here. It's a little relevant now.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I have unmuted the lines of devotees. You may please share your comments or reflections or questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. I think the point again, what we discussed, what we'll discuss right now is the envy, the seed of envy should be, we should actually get it fried that time itself. And the association really helps because you're in the bad association, it got germinated very easily. So being in the association of devotees, I'm sure is one of, again, signifies the importance of where we associate. And also, yes, as you said, Balaram is Adi Guru. So envious of spiritual master will be a disaster, spiritual disaster for the person. So thank you for actually highlighting. And also you very nicely brought to say how that thing of what is a thought and then which converts into an action later, how it happens. That's a very important thing to actually, at least for me to realize that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. In fact, association is like a necessary evil. Like we need association to get out, but the association itself can create some problems for us. So we'll have to be mindful there.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandat Pranam. Thank you for the readings, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. Wonderful class. Yeah, just I wanted to ask for myself, Prabhu. Many times we discuss about keeping Krishna center in our life, and then we have to realize, like we hear almost, but it is very difficult for me sometimes. This habit is not increasing, Prabhu. How to come out of it?
What is not increasing, you said? I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, keeping Krishna in center. So sometimes we forget about that myself. Yeah. How can I come out from that, Prabhu?
So we forget that means what happens is we put Krishna there, but then like that monkey, that eye goes and sits off there time and again. It displaces like it's we end up unconsciously, if you leave it like that, then it by default, by entropy, the eye is sitting there. It will go and sit off there. We'll have to put an effort to dislodge that eye and then put Krishna there. And then we might have put it for some moment or for whatever the certain activity. Then suddenly, we'll forget, like that forgetfulness, all that. That means then I will come and take its place. So by default, we are conditioned to think about ourselves, and that is why Prabhupada always used to say, so you are not this body, so you are not this body. So like that, we have to drive this point to ourselves again and again and again. So every time we will have to think of Krishna, and then suddenly realize, oh, Krishna is not there, and then again put him back. So sometimes it happens, we are told to repeat something, we'll be repeating, we would have forgotten, and then the mind is drifting. Then we would have stopped that. Then again we'll start doing that. I mean, I'm not talking about chanting. I'm just generally saying, you're told to do something and then we'll forget because mind is occupying or it getting occupied with other things. So the lesser and lesser of those agitations of the mind, it becomes more calmer. So then the position, then Krishna will remain there for a longer duration, or the duration in which Krishna is there in that center there, it becomes longer and longer. So it's not like a switch. Now I-centric, then Krishna, and then that's it. No, but it's a gradual process for most of us. Though Prabhupada said that it is in one moment you can change your consciousness, that is true. But then because of our conditioning, it may not happen. So we keep toggling. So this toggling, if we can increase the duration of that toggle, and then that itself is an achievement, that itself is a sadhana, and then be thankful that by the mercy that it happened. So it becomes better and better every day. So I don't think we should despair because it has become eye-centric, but then we'll have to again put it back. It's like same chanting. Chanting also, some rounds we are paying attention, and suddenly even without we realizing, we would have lost it. And then we'll suddenly realize, oh, all this while I was not paying attention, then again come back. And then again come back, again come back. It's always that only. There's nothing more to it. So it always says, no, beat your mind with shoe and broom, they said, right? Our Goswamis have said. So we'll have to keep doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
That's all of us.
That take it like sadhana.
That's the sadhana. Exactly. The effort is the sadhana, and the sincerity with which we are trying to do that is what will make us become receptible to the mercy that is there. Without that, nothing will happen. So it is not because of my sadhana that, oh, now I am able to control better. No, because of this effort that we are putting in, and constantly and sincerely, the mercy is there. Somebody is above is showing us the mercy, thereby allowing us to remain more glued to it. Like Matasmritir Jnanam Apohanam. So Krishna is the one who's giving us that remembrance and all of that. So be thankful and then continue in that way. So we are continuing in the humble way, even though we are moving ahead. I mean, this is how I see it. I thought I'll just share it with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. Danat pranams.
Danat pranams.
Hare Krishna devotees, are there any other comments or reflections? Okay, one quick special announcement. Tomorrow, we will have Srimad Bhagavatam class at 8 o'clock. There will be a class in the temple by His Grace Madhuchandra Prabhu on the topic of Lord Lakshman, Balaram, Lord Nityananda, their mood of servitude, the Lord of servitude, and their mood of service to Krishna. So that will be the topic. Class will be live telecast from the temple. So I request you to join the class by 8 a.m. We will not have class at 7:50.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. I think there are a couple of comments. I'll just quickly read it out. Saraswati Mataji has mentioned, Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. Thanks for the wonderful teaching. Then Prem Priya Mataji has mentioned, Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class. Time and again, we keep hearing from seniors that key to attract the attention of the Lord is to remain humble, but difficult to practically apply. Thank you for reminding us through your wonderful class. That's a comment from Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So there are no questions. We will end today's session. Thank you, Prabhuji, once again for accepting the class and giving wonderful class at a very short notice. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindho bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Balaram Jayanti Mahotsav ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'll be ending the Zoom session.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.